Hello, and welcome to Dinner for Wolf, a movie podcast where three friends across the country get together every few weeks to listen to movies, good, bad, and in between. You can watch and listen along yourself if you want. This time, we'll be talking about Hard Boiled, the 1992 movie from John Woo. I am John Blue, and I'm joined here by my friends.
A redder tomorrow.
And eggs and Graken.
Excellent, excellent. And yeah, Hard Boiled. So this was actually Woo's last movie, last Hong Kong movie before he started, ripping John Travolta's face off and putting it on Nick Cage's face or whatever that was, and started doing more stuff stateside. And it was Chow Yun Fat was the main protagonist, and they did a lot of collaborations. Red hinted at it. A Better Tomorrow is sort of what broke them both out, I think. And The Killer was another big one. I've seen The Killer. Actually, I've not seen A Better Tomorrow. And yeah, this movie, apparently he got a lot of crap for glorifying the triads, so he decided to make a cop movie. Does this movie glorify cops more than triads? We can talk about that in the podcast, but that apparently had something to do with this. And yeah, the screenwriter Barry Wong actually died while they were making the movie, and that had some implications later on. John Woo had no one to corral the John Woo. But yes, we'll I don't know, impressions.
Well, I mean, this is kind of like a big bite to take, right? Because
Right.
before The Matrix, before John Wick, before Equilibrium, there was Hard Boiled. Like this film pretty much influences most to maybe all action movie that has been preceded by in the 90s and the 2000s. Like the gunplay that's here is like not seen in cinema. Before we've had like Hong Kong action flicks have taken a lot from Western cinema, right? A
Right.
lot of Scorsese films, a lot of kind of mafia and mobster kind of movies. This one takes that, and then every other Western film kind of takes off of that one. So like even like Scorsese's, like this film in general, like even the storyline, like it's very similar to like The Departed, right? Because Infernal Affairs is kind of related to this. Like
Mhm.
all of
Well,
these movies are tied together.
and we'll get to a rundown of the storyline in a minute, but before we get too into it, Gray, do you have any
Yeah, no,
initial
I agree. So you know, when we look at say like kung fu movies or movies with a fighting tournament, right? Like Bloodsport and Enter the Dragon walked so they could run,
yes.
and this is kind of the proto gun fu movie, right?
Yeah.
Ah, I can't say walk and then run. It's more like this movie crawled.
Wow.
Like
Okay, we know where Gray's going with this. More
so,
negative than my
no,
takeaway, but that's okay.
no, it's a fun one. It's a fun one, and I'm looking forward to talking about it. But yeah, I mean, I'm saying let me
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
backtrack here. I'm saying with that parallel comparison of like Enter the Dragon and Bloodsport versus what came after. Like Enter the Dragon and Bloodsport are still better than a lot of what came after. I think
Right.
a lot of other
Okay,
things are better
fair.
than this.
Yes. Well, because they were made for more than the budget was like $2-3 million. Like yeah, some of this was
And
the
at least
borderline between expensive Hong Kong movie and cheap US movie.
I
Yeah.
we're gonna put a pin in the word budget because I've got a lot to talk about when it comes to budget later.
Yeah, same here. Well, let's do the speed run so people have some idea. Well, I don't know, makes sense. Sense is a strong word to use for this movie as much as I enjoy it. But let's just get into it.
All right, here we go.
Hard-drinking cop named Tequila, Clever, is playing surprisingly solid jazz on a clarinet with his drummer buddy, and we are treated to a montage of neon signs on the way to a tea house, where everyone has bird cages, as is actually custom in Hong Kong, apparently, as they surveil and bust an arms deal, only for all hell to break loose when a rival gang also crashes the deal. The first few hundred of 100,000, not a joke, bullets are fired, and the drummer cop is killed, which makes clarinet cop mad, who then kills what turns out to be an informant. Mondays. Cut to the funeral, and the chief burning the file of the dead undercover cop while Mezcal pours one out for his drummer buddy. Anyway, cut to the other main character, Alan, who's working for a triad boss, Uncle Hoy, and executes a guy in the library using a gun stashed in a book that he then stashes back in the library for the cops to find for reasons. Back to Alan, who killed the guy for betraying Uncle Hoy in support of Johnny Wong, a new, big-time upstart, big-on-warlord stuff guy, and, of course, Alan promptly betrays Uncle Hoy to join Johnny Wong. Cut back to Hefeweizen, watching his own old work girlfriend get flowers from a guy who keeps sending white roses, which he hates, or doesn't, whichever is funnier, and a message on the card that she makes Tequila give her the notes for the matching song to because of his jazz side gig. Turns out it's a coded message using the musical scale for the chief, telling him to pause the investigation. He tells Vodka to keep going, but only because Vodka told him it wasn't going at all, and who then proceeds to pull a gun on Johnny Wong in broad daylight to let him know he's on to him. You know, to help the case. We also meet his informant, a fox he feeds with money from a fish bucket. Another coded message tells the chief to tell Absinthe to lay off a little bit, and the chief yells at him to back off. I'm sure that solves that. Johnny calls Alan up and tells him he needs him for a raid on Uncle Hoy, which Alan accepts, and is then promptly not used at all in, until they already won. Uncle Hoy asks him to kill him himself, and spare his men, as Alan convinced Johnny to do, and Alan then kills all of them anyway after killing Uncle Hoy. Oatmeal Stout really loudly loads a shotgun for like 7 minutes while watching this, and goes all Bloody Mary on the whole group, throwing in some smoke grenades into the cocktail, killing many. He and Alan come face to face, but his gun runs out of mixer, but Alan decides to let him live anyway. Sake thinks that Alan might be an undercover cop. He makes the chief tell him, but the chief doesn't. But he does get his old bartender friend, played by John Woo, to get his pet fox to tell him that, yeah, he is a cop. Cut to Alan and the chief talking, Alan demanding his money, and that whiskey back off, but the chief says he needs more time, and Alan's help to find where Johnny Wong's big weapon depot is located. Alan and Scotch bond at gunpoint on Alan's boat and fend off the angry remnants of Uncle Hoy's gang, and are now best friends for realsies. Alan gets taken to the hospital while Rum swims away to keep both their cover, and we see a bunch of patients, 1,000 babies, and the big bad enforcer Mad Dog rocking a Phantom of the Opera look after getting really close to some explosions that Tequila did to Johnny Wong. They find out that Foxy is the cop's informant, he got caught, and Alan saved his life by shoving the world's strongest lighter into his breast pocket before shooting him in the chest and shoving him under the water before Mad Dog can finish the job. It's a thought that counts. Sour Mash brings Foxy to the hospital, where all the bad guys are. That's where the arsenal they've been searching for the whole movie is stashed, after all. Why? How? Who funded this hospital? Warlord Johnny, apparently. I don't know how Hong Kong's hospital system works. Anyway, Foxy survives an ill-advised cigarette near his oxygen tank, only to get slashed and thrown down a garbage chute when Mad Dog finishes the job, as Everclear talks with Alan, who does a Terminator 2 with a flower box, except this time it's a pistol. Alan tells Cognac about the arsenal, and they tell Lady Cop, who tells Big Boss Cop, who's dressed like a doctor for some reason. They'll evacuate the hospital when Cooking Sherry sends her a white rose, but he already shoved it into her pocket right away, so she'll find it later. Because that's a clever way to cause movie-friendly peril and tension instead of just telling her to start now. Alan and Jin kill a bunch of people in the morgue, find a secret door, and do a Rube Goldberg with a bunch of disassembled bullets, one whole bullet, and one gun to open a blast-proof door. But Alan needs to finish it off by electrocuting himself, so Hair of the Dog can make sure he doesn't go to heaven just yet, all while having a PTSD flashback to dead drummer boy. Violence starts, and after alarms go off, everyone starts evacuating over the protests of the world's most bureaucratic hospital director. And we see Lady Cop starting to help evacuate babies, and the camera zooms in on Chekhov's baby being put to the side on a scale. We then get a truly baller 20-minute series of gunfights thrust into high gear with a couple of Max Payne dives out of morgue drawers, and, using a rather bold and innovative hostage-taking strategy, the baddies try to lock everyone inside while also aggressively killing as many of their hostages as possible, as police continue to be careful in case they start killing hostages. Finally, Johnny kills too many hostages, and Mad Dog goes rabid, shoots him, runs out of ammo, then gets shot. Johnny blows up the hospital, as you do, while all the babies get out except Chekhov's baby, that Malort has to rescue while almost turning to a fireball. As Alan chases down Johnny, he and Tequila lock gazes, and if you listen closely, you can hear Hungry Eyes start playing in the background. Everyone is out except Johnny and Alan. Johnny comes out with Alan at gunpoint. Johnny makes Brandy humiliate himself so he doesn't shoot Alan, but Alan outfoxes him by making Johnny shoot him in the belly so Scotch can put a shot through his eye. The case can be closed. Alan can live happily ever after on his dinky little boat, and if there's any justice in this world, a decades-long internal affairs investigation begins. Simple, right?
Okay. Brad, I don't know if this is content or if you want to cut it. But Blue, do you know what the word speed means?
Yeah, listen, it's a long movie with a lot of stuff going on.
I'm gonna chalk this up to you loving this movie so much because because I have a feeling that if I did our Conan the Barbarian speed run, I would also do what you did. And what you did is you told a story more detailed than the Wikipedia page for the movie.
Fair.
I know this for a fact because I read the Wikipedia plot of the movie before this pod to remind myself because it's a week since I watched the movie. And that was significantly more detailed than the entire Wikipedia plot summary. Well, the train one. This was 5.5 minutes.
That's chunky.
So I'm no judgment because I know that you love this movie.
Well, I don't disagree, but what is the?
I would think 2.5.
2.5. Okay.
We can do 3.
I was gonna say 3 is probably okay.
3 minutes.
I think 3.
Having some cap will make us. It prevents scope creep, which is right. Yes, that's fair.
So I get it. Like this, there's almost like 3 to 4 movies in this movie in general. There's like so many.
That's the thing.
Then in essence, like Alan's movie starts off and it's like a gritty crime, like undercover, like documentary, and then Tequila shows up and he's like, I'm gonna take a shotgun and I'm gonna kill an entire crime syndicate. So like it just like it totally goes off rails as soon as soon as Chow fat characters come in.
And there's reasons for that. This initially had a very different plot where Alan was going to be like a psychopathic, like baby poisoning serial killer, and then they decided
Alan was going to be that.
Yes, and then they decided to not do that after the tea house. They shot it sequentially, so they did the tea house scene, and then apparently decided to not do that. And then like completely changed the movie because they thought it was like too much.
His story is very like is you see the story in almost like a ton of other movies though. Even in John Woo flicks, like Face Off is very similar to this. Like where you have the bad guy pretending to be the good guy, and the good guy, having to do bad things.
Being a little too bad to be considered good.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I was talking about The Departed and Infernal Affairs before, but the writing of Infernal Affairs, they wanted to remake Face Off, and that's how Infernal Affairs.
Of course they did.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
If you've ever, it's actually a pretty good game. It was by I think the publisher went out of business, but Sleeping Dogs is like I don't know, like 2012 or something like that. It's a lot of this movie.
Isn't there actually a game that's the sequel to this?
Yeah,
like John Woo wrote a game.
I think so. Yeah,
and it stars like Tequila or Alan or somebody like it's actually a sequel to this, and it's like, oh, I couldn't get this movie made, so we did a game instead.
Yeah.
What's that called? I'm gonna look it up.
It's called Stranglehold. I have it. I like.
Oh, okay.
It was for Xbox 360. Yeah, it's just like it's a Max Payne game. But if you go to Max Payne, like the difficulties, like the hardest difficulty is called Hard Boiled.
Hard Boiled, right? Right.
And it was also either like a badge or a perk or something in a Call of Duty game.
Yeah, it's again.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got a.
But no, 100,000 blanks are fired in this movie, approximately. Apparently, it's like a ridiculous number of bullets are fired in this movie.
I've got a question about the. Go ahead.
For a person who like enjoys gunfights and just like loving like how guns look and like showing them, and he has very little understanding of how guns actually work or just like how they're used in general. So to keep in mind, like John Woo is like. I think he's like a self-proclaimed pacifist, so he doesn't like really like violence, but he like loves filming violence, and it shows. It's like that. It's like just very little understanding. Like shotgun shells are like RPGs in this movie. Like they blow up cars. Like if the good guys are using them, right? It's like it's based on like how heroic the person using the gun is how powerful that gun is.
Yeah, I used to call it like the Steven Seagal effect, because
Yeah.
the Seagal movies are this classic where like 9 guys will line up in an alley with machine guns and all shoot at him while he stands still, and like they miss completely.
Yep.
And then he pulls a handgun, and the handgun sounds like a cannon, and it just one
Yeah.
shot each to each of the guys.
Yep, pretty much.
It's not quite there. It's not at like Steven Seagal effect level, but there's an element.
Yeah.
I got a question from early in the movie.
Yeah.
I know we're not going to go through the whole plot, but
Right.
I did, when I took my notes watching it, I took contemporaneous notes. So I just have like just stream of consciousness here. And is it, you said in the speed run that it's a cultural thing with the bird cages at the tea house?
Like I looked at, I don't know, when I was looking up, I'm like, did he just make this up? And like, apparently it's a thing that like people would bring bird cages to tea. Like this is according to some article I found that I'd have to like
Okay,
look back
because
up. But
because
like,
I was thinking like, okay, I'm at a tea house with literally anyone. I'm just a regular human. I'm not the undercover cop. I'm not in a
Right.
cop meeting. I'm not a gangster. I'm just a guy at a tea house. Guy with a bird cage comes in. Well, that's weird. I've literally never been somewhere and have a guy come with a bird cage unless it's
Yes.
a pet store.
That's why I
No-
looked it up, because it was weird as hell.
Another guy comes with bird cage. Pair of guys come with 2 bird cages. There ended up being a total of 5+ bird cages in this place. Me, regular citizen Gray, is leaving. I don't know what's going on. I don't.
Yeah.
It's a
Well, now
bird
you know.
convention. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm out.
You know, as soon as like your tea house and they start bringing in bird cages, you know to get out of there. This is some serious business.
And these people were acting like they didn't know each other, but the bird cages were identical. I was really fixated on this. 5 identical bird cages from people pretending they don't know each other. Like, I'm out of there.
Yeah, as soon as you notice that there's birds just chilling out, especially white birds, you got to get out of there. That's not.
Oh yeah, white birds.
Because here's the thing: it's not
You're in
only
trouble.
that it's gonna be a bloodbath, but you are going to die if you are not a main character and you are just there. You are going to die.
You're gonna die, and if you see those birds, you know you're gonna die in slow motion.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And
Also, you might die apparently I think this is from the director's commentaries, but apparently, so first of all, that place was torn down like a month later. So they had like 5 days to shoot this and like 1 shot to do it, which is why when they retconned the movie, they had to like not retcon that scene. But also apparently in many parts of the movie, including that one, they literally had to pay protection to triads that kept coming in and shaking down the set. So
That's kinda awesome.
this was a lot going on. So maybe the birds did bring danger. We don't know.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm glad to hear that there is something behind it, and it's not just like everyone's ignoring that there's 5 bird cages in one.
No, there's a bunch of wild scenes in this. So like this is 4th of like the classic John Woo like Criterion Collection films that he has, right? So there's The Killer, there's The Better Tomorrow, there's
I forget. Those are the 3 I know. This, Killer,
and then
Better Tomorrow,
Hardboiled.
but
And like so before this, like if you think about like Dirty Harry and like kind of like these kind of old school kind of action things, right? Usually when there's a gunfight, right, you see the actor shoot the gun, and then you see a cut, and then you see the person getting hit by the gun, right? And so this is the first time in these sets of movies that John Woo kind of sets up, is that in the same scene you see the guy shoot and the guy get hit in the same in the same frame. And so like this is like a kind of a weird like take on this, and you see it so often now that it's like, oh yeah, of course you would do that. Why would you do a cut? And like and you'll notice that like every time there's a slow motion kind of thing, the was bullet time as it was, the sounds are all at the normal speed. They never slow down the sound. So gunfire sounds like gunfire, even though people like moving like molasses, like this thing, right? So it's strange. It's like this really like kind of off-putting, like and not to mention just like how guns are handled in this, right? Everybody like people are like swinging guns around like nunchucks instead of like aiming. They're like they have to punch their arm like while they're shooting, right? Because like somehow like if they swing their arm fast enough, the bullet will go even faster than it like.
Oh man, like that. What's the movie?
It's like
where they curve the bullets.
Yeah, it's like Wanted, except to make it go faster, not to make it curve.
Yeah, because like they'll like they always bring their guns back up after they're done shooting. They bring their guns back up so they could punch their gun again, like when they're shooting. Like you'll just see like that throughout the whole thing. So that's like it's it's a trademark pretty much. So gunfights are now like gunfights, right? Like you actually have
Right.
like if you were like in a boxing match or like fisticuffs, people get shot like a million times, right? And,
Yep.
and only when they're dead do they actually die. Like whether it's misses or whatnot. So like you could actually have like like weird parries and like seed setups where it's not just one guy shoots like the bad guy. Like everyone's running around, jumping through windows. Like I think at the hospital scene, he jumps through the window over and over again, like 8 times.
Yeah. Yep.
Like they jump through. Both of them jump through the
They
window.
jump
Then they
across
jump
windows.
back out.
Yes. Which looks amazing. Like, why? Why would you do
It's
that?
so ridiculous. It's like,
Yeah,
but that's
I
that's
think there's another quote from the commentary that
Yeah.
the site that kind of runs him down that I think explains not just Hard Boiled, but John Woo overall. And there's the lead-in one and then the full one. The lead-in one explains it really well. Logic is very boring, says Wu, in regard to how he crafts his counter scenes.
Yeah. He does not.
He then goes on, when I'm shooting, I do what I feel, I'm free and open. But just logic is very boring, should just be the teaser pull out.
Well, it's not just about physical logic. It's about like the storyline logic too. Like
Right. Yes.
Like things happen in this movie that just like blew my mind. Like
Yeah.
like little
Don't
things
make any
like
sense.
like the library scene, right?
Yeah.
Makes
It's
no
hilarious,
sense.
right?
None.
But just he murders him at the library and then
Yeah.
goes and puts the book back. Fine, whatever. That's like No Country for Old Men kind of assassination. Fine.
Right.
But in what universe is he going to think, I bet the murder weapon's hidden in a book? And then just walk the aisle and be like, this book. Like, they didn't show, like, there was no dust there where there's dust near the other books. He just, like, grabs a book and it's the book.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
literal needle in a haystack. Like, it's a library. Thousands of books. And, like, the first book you pick is the book with the gun in it.
I mean, they showed him walking along and looking at other books, but yeah, there's a lot of aisles in the library.
But there wasn't like a drip of blood. There wasn't like there's no dust in front of that book like it's just been pulled out recently. There is no evidence. He just like hones in on it like a divining stick finding where to dig a well.
He's a great detective or sergeant or whatever his job is. He detects things, buddy.
Yeah, he's a murder machine is what he is.
Yes.
That's the thing, right? That's one of my favorite parts. So like it's just like, okay, we gotta get a crew. And it's like, no crew for you. He's like, all right, fine. I'll just do it myself. It's just like
what do we just jumps into the warehouse like commando?
Yep. He just like literally swings in through the skylight to kill everyone. That's he's just like, my plan is to kill an entire crime syndicate. Just like
also, seriously, he was watching them and like spying in like a echoey metal and concrete filled warehouse, loudly racking a shotgun.
He planned it so loosely. That he didn't even load his gun before he got there.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not even sure if I'm even gonna need this. Maybe I'll just need the 2 pistols. He's like, no, I need the shotgun for this one.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a question about Alan.
Yeah.
Okay. I have many questions about Alan.
Okay.
But yes.
So I mean, I'm pretty sure Blue has keyed in on this as well. Alan's an undercover cop, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And and Tequila's boss knows Alan is undercover, and that's why
Correct.
Tequila's boss is trying to get Tequila to pump the brakes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Now, when you are undercover, it is my understanding that there is a specific individual, a target you are after, that you're not just like, oh, I'm infiltrating this crime syndicate. It's like, okay, we're after the boss of this crime syndicate, and I need to be undercover because we have a warrant for this person. You know, like there's a reason. Like,
or
there's
we want to
paperwork.
get one. Here's
Right,
what we want.
right.
Like, who we
we're
want to bring
building
down.
a case on this person who is our suspect.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Sure. I mean, I don't know, but that is my impression. Yes.
Well, I mean, you're not just like I'm a criminal who has a badge in my pocket. Like
right.
like
there's a limitation to how much you can do.
There's a reason you're sent undercover. That's
correct,
my point.
Correct.
Yeah, you were sent undercover to infiltrate X to get Y. Right.
Correct.
Okay. He's been undercover for a couple of years. They say. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. He's working for Hoy.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
Johnny
I see
Wong.
where you're going with this.
Johnny Wong has just shown up on the scene as the new crime guy and wants to start a war with Hoy, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, Alan, come over to my side. We'll kill this guy." Did Alan just kill the target of his department's investigation and switch sides to another rival gang that has just arrived that I'm sure the police department doesn't have a file on yet and isn't the target of the investigation?
Oh yeah,
Is
totally.
Alan still a cop at that point?
No. Hey,
no.
undercover work is very loose in Hong Kong. All right, this is during the transition.
Listen,
right? It's
there
like
is a
they
reason.
don't really keep records that well.
Come on, like
There's a reason I called for an internal affairs investigation in my quote unquote speed run. But,
Again, it's not a
Yes.
logical argument to have, like, because John Woo doesn't like care about
doesn't
that.
do logic, right?
Logic is very boring, as we
And that's
learned.
why I brought my
So,
question up
like-
now. Is I wanted to highlight that this is like dream logic movie.
Yeah, pretty
Now,
much.
if
And
you
it's
wanna-
okay. That is okay.
If you want to,
Yeah.
if you want to throw him a cookie, and like I am, you could say like, well, they had this fish, and then they had this bigger, because they make a point that Johnny is like doing bigger numbers and all that, like, warlord type stuff with like, okay, maybe they decided this is a bigger target. But the way they're communicating, Alan absolutely freelanced this and just hoped.
It's not even like
to be
it's
clear,
not even like yeah, go.
I don't want 10 more minutes of the boss doing paperwork and getting a message over to Alan. Like,
Right.
I don't want that. I just it
You're
felt
not-
like a spur of the moment decision.
Yeah, dude, it's like that the whole like investigative part or policing part of like of the movie does not exist. Like
Right,
just like how
right.
guns are not used properly at all. Like
Right.
The only reason why Alan is with Choi or Hoy is to show like kind of like these are the noble like
Yes,
criminals,
yes.
right? They have honor, they have like a code, right? And
Right.
so Alan is like, it's like if we put this back like 100 years ago, and it was just like more like kind of feudal kind of things.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
he's
yeah, I
a
gotcha.
spy, but he's still like, he still cares about like his fake master or whatever,
Right.
And so
yeah.
it's just to show, it's just to build like, oh, that, some criminals have honor. Alan can have honor, and stuff like that.
Right.
And then they go gunfight pretty much.
Well,
Well,
Alan's like, honor, never mind. I'm gonna murder everyone.
Yeah,
What
exactly.
I enjoyed the most is supposedly this is John Woo's like, oh, I want to like don't want to glorify the triads, want to bring bring attention and honor police and all that, and it's like one focuses a cop that's just acting as a triad, and the other is a cop that even the triads are like, whoa, guy, that's intense. There are
Yeah.
rules. What we need to do here. Like,
Yeah.
it's still about triads, just they're cops.
Oh yeah, these guys are like so like,
Yeah.
and not to mention, oh dude, the best scene is like the really like apex emotional point, right? When Alan is like, they're both like in that long cut, right? That 3-minute long gunfight cut where like they're shooting everybody. And then like Alan shoots a cop, and he's like, was that a cop? He's like, no, it wasn't a cop. Like, don't even think about that. And then like at the end, he's like, yeah, that was a cop.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was totally a cop.
Honestly, my favorite scene in the movie is when they're trying to get through the door into the vault.
Oh yeah, the little MacGyver scene.
Yeah.
And he ends up MacGyvering the bullet, but
Yeah.
there's no trust in him whatsoever. And like the count to 3, like that was good stuff. That was solid character work.
There's funny
in a
moments.
silly
There's just, like,
scene.
there's just like such, and not to mention like it
When
feels
the
like
baby pees on his leg to put the fire out, like
Yeah.
there's like slapstick stuff in like random places.
Yeah, it's like schizophrenic in its tone. Like sometimes like so they're kind of buddy and they're in the hospital, and they're like they're talking about like just cracking jokes, be like, yo, blah 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 blah, and then he's just like you're so self-righteous, like you think you're the only hero. Just like, is he serious? Is he being like a serious guy right now? Like, where'd that come from?
Yep.
Like they're making fun of like corpses and stuff, and then he's like,
yeah. And then
like,
3 minutes later, they dive out of morgue drawers.
That scene was awesome.
Probably
Oh my
on
God.
bodies. Yeah. And that scene was sweet. Like that end hospital scene is like, aside from the fact and get more into this later, maybe. Like,
Yeah.
they really aggressively kill a lot of hostages. Like, no one had an end game there. The cops didn't have an end game. The
Mm-mm.
bad guys didn't have an end game. Why are there weapons in a
All
hospital
right,
in the first place?
let's try to keep like an organized of what works now, and then we'll talk about all the stuff that
Yeah.
just like doesn't even make any sense. Like, why even?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
What
Like,
works? I mean, again, we've talked about all like great action. The banter is actually pretty good when it's on. It just can,
yeah,
sometimes it's random,
Mhm.
sometimes it's on. It does get that like it's a very gritty, as in like everyone is in too deep and like everything's
Yeah.
terrible, and it doesn't lean away from everything being terrible and broken and whatever, right? And like, look, the action's just really good and it's ridiculous and over the top, but like the jumping through the windows, or the time where you see Alan and Mad Dog have a face off and then it's revealed that there's like 30 people in between them. Just
Yeah.
like, what the hell?
But just, I
Like
don't know.
the like you've got to be kidding me moments in good ways are
Mhm.
just constantly amped up. Like, it starts with the tea house, then the warehouse is a little more ridiculous, and then the hospital is the most ridiculous 20-minute scene I've ever seen in a movie. Like, it's just,
And there are some like good like character scenes, like when they're the fishing scene, right?
Mhm.
yeah.
Like
Yep.
that seems like a very like well shot scene. Like
Yeah.
Yep.
he walks away and he's just like money's in the little bucket.
Yep.
And that
Yep.
just
Yep.
like little setup is just like very cool. Like very cool. There
Yeah.
are very cool scenes in this when you're like, even though Tequila doesn't make sense because he's like a character, like a cartoon, right?
Mhm.
Like he has
Yep.
these really like awesome, like the way he smokes, the way he just like sets up scenes. Like Chow Yun Fat like kills it in like,
Yeah.
and it's pretty well shot.
Absolutely.
Yep. No, it's good stuff.
And I
But like
know it's probably it's like a tertiary, or I don't even know how far down the line is storyline, but like I was entertained by the whole like ex-girlfriend works in the office, the boss is backing on her, like this whole like weird
yeah,
relationship stuff that they just throw in as this weird kind of like slider in the middle of it all. I I actually
It's
kind of
fun,
dug
though.
that. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like, I got a chuckle out of like a weird, just like, but they're like, and
Yep.
also like, the first scene sets up with with Chow Yun Fat killing a cop,
Mhm.
you
Yep.
know,
Yep.
Mhm. He
like
kills a cop in the very first scene of the movie.
yeah, Tequila kills a cop.
Yep.
He's like,
No,
what are we
he
doing?
executes the cop. He
Yeah.
like smiles at him, spits out a toothpick, and shoots him in the
Yeah,
forehead.
and it's just
He's like, "How dare you, undercover cop, for killing my not undercover cop friend? Like,
yeah, yep.
I'm gonna kill this undercover cop for killing that not undercover cop.
Like,
And then I'm
Now,
just gonna get off the case and go
in
back
his
to work."
defense, he didn't know it was an undercover
I know,
cop.
but
at
it's
the time.
but like the movie that's supposed to be glorifying cops has a lot of cop killing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot.
Yep. Yep. Oh god.
But like I mean, we could kind of go on about like just the action scenes, how they're
Yeah.
set up. Like they are like bombastic. Like
Well,
like,
and I
scenes are
joked around
lit
with
up. Yeah.
I joked around with Chekhov's baby, but like you see that nursery full of babies, you're like, this better come back, and oh my, does it?
Mhm.
So like, yeah, yep,
And it does show like the heroics of like these people, because like they're trying to help
yes,
and like they get blasted all the time.
Yep.
It's like so it is like the cops are not like inadequate or
yeah. The cops are not portrayed as like dirty or inept or
yeah.
anything like that. It's just
They just
it's
get
portrayed
outgunned
as
all the
like,
time.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're right.
But
You're right. The one trope they avoided was the dirty cop trope. Like
Yeah.
the
You
cops,
have the
every
one like
cop,
maverick cop, but you don't have a
every
dirty
cop,
cop.
every cop was trying to do the right thing their own
Yeah.
way.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and even though like it doesn't make any sense, like the cops like come in like disguised as like patients and like doctors, and you're like, what? If you don't think about it though, it's a cool thing, right? It's like, oh
Yeah,
wow,
right.
yeah,
Like,
cool.
wow, man.
But if you
badass.
think about it,
Also,
you're like, why?
Also, like, did the medical director know there were like? How did they not know there's a big weapon case behind the morgue? Is the doctor a triad? What's going on here?
Yeah,
All right. Are we ready for things that don't work?
yeah. Let's move on to things that
Yeah,
don't work.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
because
yeah,
I
yeah.
got because I got something
Yeah.
that connects directly to what Blue just said.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
just to wrap up the positive stuff. Like, the stuff that does work is what you expect when you've heard about this movie and all the
Yeah.
action and gung fu
Yeah.
and stuff like that. It absolutely delivers it. So
Yeah.
like, if you're
Be-
looking for that, it's very good. That
It's literally in the Criterion Collection. It's like usually on the top 10 of most like directors,
Right.
like, or at least top
Mhm.
100 of directors' movies to like for cinematography and action. So
Right.
like when we're gonna rag on it, but
Yeah.
I do like this movie
It's
a lot.
fun.
I like.
It's fun. It's a good time.
All right, let's
Right.
go.
Okay, so I was just blown away when we got to the final sequence of the movie, right? And it
Yeah.
wasn't because of the action of the hospital scene and all that, which was amazing, like we talked about. This underground vault below the hospital,
Yeah.
like I have in my notes. Hang on. This James Bond villain / Star Wars base built under the hospital looks
Yep.
real expensive.
Yep.
As in more expensive than their gun smuggling operation that it's housing.
Yeah.
Like, in my notes, I have it's like they're robbing a liquor store with a Ferrari.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
The best part was when he's like, "How about I make the next gun cache under the police department?" And you're like, "How
Yeah.
did you get it under the hospital in the first place?"
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
Like that's
like,
like a
you can
that's
just,
like $100 million facility under the
yeah,
hospital. It doesn't
yeah,
make sense. It's
like
got
because he always,
Star Wars doors. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Also, he's been on the scene for like a few years. Like, how old is this hospital? Did he retrofit it? What's going
Yeah, it's
on? Like,
it's
I don't.
ridiculous that
I
he's like,
lost my mind at this James Billen mountain base
Just
under.
imagine this literally has like nerve gas dispersed. Like, and they fill it
yeah,
with gas
exactly.
at some
There's
point.
like,
It's not clear what the gas does because it doesn't
Like,
affect them at all.
either that, or gun smuggling is way more lucrative than I thought.
yeah, maybe it is. I don't know, but like they did, they, and it was like,
And
oh,
even
we'll
like,
like we'll smuggle
so
the
they,
guns out through like corpses and patients. You're
right,
like,
right.
dude,
I'm like, how do they like? You have to get checked in at the hospital. Like, what? Who's going along with this?
yeah, like, and all the security guards are part of his crew or whatnot,
Right.
and it's like, dude,
I mean,
Like,
you know what it felt like? It felt like that, and I'm just making this up, but this is what I told myself while I was watching it. It felt like they were like middling on what they had left in their budget, and that was a set for another movie that they just borrowed. And they're like, "Oh yeah,
yeah,
we're doing this movie on the moon, at a moon base." They're like, "Oh yeah, that could be the vault under the hospital. Let's film there."
right, right, right.
and the best part is
God.
like all of like it's like a fortress down there, but like the security lock is just like two buttons. It's just like
Oh
Yep.
yeah,
blue,
yep.
red. Like there's not that
Yep.
many
Oh,
combinations if you
right.
have two buttons. It's like, I don't know, buddy. I could only come up with four, really. Eventually, you're gonna get it.
But
Also,
yeah, and some of it was like
they
again the
go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
No,
Well,
I
the
do.
writer they found out during filming the warehouse scene, and again they filmed it sequentially. So like about in the middle of making the movie, the screenwriter died, which I have to think affected this somehow. But you never
It
know.
could be. Yeah, it's like, and like the guy keeps referencing, like 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 they can't do anything to us. They only have 38s, and we've got we've got assault rifles
Right,
and
right.
whatnot. You're like, dude,
Okay, I have this written down. I should have said this in things I liked. This movie,
yeah,
this quote was the quote of the movie for me, and
yeah,
I went back and rewound it and wrote down the subtitles.
okay,
He goes, "What's a cop? Just a man with a gun. They aren't immortal. They've got guns. So do we. And they only have 38s."
yeah.
Isk.
Well, like,
Like
So
that was the best line of the movie.
So I actually, and this jumps on what you were saying, Gray. Like, and I want to read a small part of like a different review that it
yeah,
just because like it captures the affectionate exasperation that everyone should feel with this movie.
yeah,
And I quote, the final third of the movie is chaotic nonsense. I didn't understand any part of what was going on. The bad guy actually had an entire James Bond style lair in the basement of a hospital. That would have been absurd even in a Bond film. Weren't Al and Tequila being gassed? What happened to that? How was that business with telling Teresa to wait for the signal to evacuate the hospital and then slipping a signal to her pocket supposed to work? How did Tequila know she's going to find out? Why did he just tell her for 15 minutes? It
yeah.
goes on like this, but you
Uh,
can hear the person screaming.
Again, like
Did I?
stylistically cool, right? You're like, oh, but when she finds the white rose, like that's like, what if she never checked her pockets ever? It's like,
I I think we have just discovered that in the future, I'm going to find a time machine and go back in time and write a review on this movie.
That's gonna be it.
I wrote that in the future.
You did. You did.
Yeah,
You're,
it's like
yeah.
again,
Yeah,
logic is
pretty
out the
much it.
window, right? Like,
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
uh, so like when they meet, right? Under the boat, right? Who's hunting him at that time? And when they hunt him, right? Like, not only is he hunted by, I'm guessing it's Hoy's, like a remnant of Hoy's group.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At
but
least
then
that's what
like
Wikipedia told me.
then his like then whatever, the main bad guy like zooms in like really quickly too, just like how are they even connected? Like, it's like such a jump cut to those things.
What
Yeah.
I was taking that to be is that somehow they heard about it, they heard gunfire, whatever, and they were coming to save Alan from Uncle Hoy's people, but we're too late. That's one of the few things in the movie that I can actually see a logical, like,
Yeah, it's
but maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you made it make more sense than it made up until now.
I mean, what's the actual reason? Because John Woo wanted as many
Yeah,
triads as
exactly.
possible on the screen at all times, even though he
Mhm.
doesn't like triads. Apparently.
No, this is
But,
a cop
like,
movie, not a triad movie.
This is a cop movie. This is a cop movie.
This is
Yeah.
a cop movie.
Serious question. Do we see and this is not a bit, do we see anyone get arrested in this movie? I don't think we do. I think they
No.
all just die.
No, even
I don't
when he
think we
comes
see
outside and like they're messing with his car, he
Yeah.
just like beats them up and then gets punked
Yeah.
himself, and no one gets
Yeah.
arrested there either.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, okay, good.
Are there
Yeah.
handcuffs in this movie?
Yeah,
Ooh.
he
Or
uses it
badges.
to pull the thing, you know? He uses it to screw
Yeah,
up
he
the-
uses it as a
That's
ratchet
right.
to
Yeah,
yes.
yep.
Yep.
He screws the bolt with the handcuff. But
What a
other than
weird
that,
sequence that was.
were there handcuffs in this movie otherwise?
Are any hands cuffed in this movie? No.
No.
Are there
Hands are not cuffed.
handcuffs? Yes.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
I feel like John Woo has like a fundamental like misunderstanding of how all machines work.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
not just guns. I think he doesn't understand how guns work, but also
Right.
in the shootout in the warehouse, Tequila is on the passenger side of the car,
Yeah.
hiding behind it. He then reaches out and just shifts the car into neutral from outside the car.
Yeah.
Without anyone holding down the brake. Like you can't just move a
Hey,
stick shift
remember,
around.
it's reversed. The driver's side's on the other side.
Yeah, but he's got his gun in his other hand. He's not pushing down on the brake. Man, he just pulls a lever. He pulls a lever and the car starts rolling.
Yeah, man. You throw it in neutral, things roll back.
So like, I don't think John Woo's ever driven a car along with ever
No, that's
shot a gun. What John Woo
everything
just lives in a
explodes
bubble.
this movie. Yeah, like everything is packed with like high explosive, like trucks, motorcycles,
Boom.
cars.
Yep. It's like in The
hospital
Simpsons
beds.
when the milk truck blows up.
Exactly, pretty
Yep.
much.
And of course, the cars when they're not blowing up are bulletproof, but that like every movie does that, so I can't
Yeah,
even be
no.
mad.
A lot
at
of this is what
one.
things every
Like,
movie does, but I'm gonna point out when I've
Right.
seen other movies too.
Yep.
You know what
Yep.
I didn't hit for me?
What's
The
that?
jazz solos. I don't like scoring jazz.
Very-
It was
Yeah.
not even
well,
smooth jazz. It was like you're like, oh, okay.
Apparently,
All right.
apparently the reason John Woo is a bartender in this is there were more things to flesh out Tequila as a more like complex person that apparently they cut a bunch of them and
Wow.
then they felt like they cut too much and so
Yeah.
they added back in a mentor figure thing, which all to say, like, I don't know if the jazz bits were like a leave-in of something that was supposed to be more
Mhm.
fleshed out, and now it's just like, why is he playing a clarinet at the beginning and then we never come back to that except for when he needs to translate lyrics, like
Hey, he plays a song for every
translate
cop
notes.
that dies,
Quick,
whether they ask
he
for it or
does.
not.
Yup. They're gonna get a solo.
Every cop's funeral, he rolls up and he's like, "It's time for my solo, tequila solo." I was like, "No, please, tequila."
I killed
Also,
most of these cops myself, you know. Yeah, no,
we know Tequila.
Hold on.
Also, I don't know if I like. Okay, Larry, let me take it back a step. I don't have any friends with a signature drink, right? Like,
right.
I don't have any friends where like that's what they drink whenever they drink.
Right.
Yeah.
If I did, and their drink was a messy ass drink that you have to slam on a table that fizzes up and gets everything all nasty all the time, I'm not going to be friends with that guy anymore if that's his signature drink that he drinks all the time.
What was it?
Like,
Tequila and
Also,
soda?
he drinks a tequila
yeah,
slammer. A tequila
Oh.
slammer is tequila and like 7-Up or Sprite, but you
Ah.
put your coaster over the top of the glass and
Yeah.
then slam it down on the
Yeah,
table
yeah. Got it.
and then drink it like a shot. And the thought is that the slam bubbling up with the carbonation makes you get drunk faster.
Ah, gotcha.
So
Also,
it
if
was
I
literally called a tequila slammer, and he makes a mess of every place he goes.
Also, if I had a friend that had a signature drink and they drank that signature drink so much that it became his name, I don't think that I would put him in charge of a triad case. Like I don't,
Right,
and
right.
I'd at the very least have an intervention. Like,
What, are you gonna say no? He'll kill you. Like,
That's true.
Cop or not, like.
Like imagine the human being who would be your friend Jaegerbomb.
Yeah, right.
yeah, right, yeah.
They would just call him Jaeger,
No,
though.
Oh,
now,
God.
now
That's a
imagine
cool
your
name.
friend named Jaegerbomb who does nothing but Jaeger bombs and does them constantly. Now imagine him as like the lead cop on an investigation.
Yeah. It's concerning.
There
It's
goes
concerning.
Jaeger. He's hard boiled. I like how they added the last the net
Yeah.
title of the thing. Just
Yep.
like, here's the hard boiled detective.
Boiled. But he
You know,
gets
I
results.
love hearing the
Everyone in
name.
the third precinct is dead.
You know, it's my favorite thing, guys.
I know.
When
I
they
was
say the
like,
name in the
He's
movie.
gonna like this
Yep.
part.
Mm,
Yep.
yeah, it made me sick to my stomach.
Oh God.
The thing is, like, I always like with the subtitles and all the things, like it works, right? But
Yeah.
how much
Right.
of it is not actually translated properly? Because the
Yeah,
song
could be a
is
lot.
not
Mhm.
right. Like when I was when I was a kid and I watched the thing and dubbed, right? I was just like his name's not really Alan. Like they didn't really name him Alan, right?
Right.
But in the Mandarin version, it's like, oh, it is Alan. It's like, that's strange. Like
Yeah.
like
Apparently, the guy who played him is like a big time. Like Chow Yun Fat's not the only.
yeah,
Like I don't
the
recognize that guy, but he's in a lot apparently.
he's in the
So
Ip Man series. He's in a bunch of
yeah,
stuff. Like,
like he's
but
so
he's
like the
super
two lead
popular.
actors. Yeah, the two lead actors were like big actors. So
Mhm.
there's that. Oh, but yeah, I don't know. The movie's great. It's great fun, but it is utterly ridiculous. Like
Yeah, of course.
as someone, I mean, this is a man who made Face Off, which is a very ridiculous movie, and I don't know that Face Off is more ridiculous than this movie is. I love both
Right.
those movies. Do not get, but yeah, there's a
Apparently,
lot.
he's making a new film. He's making a new film that's coming out. It's been a while. Like the last film he made was like Red Cliff, I think.
Mhm.
But apparently, a new film's coming out. We'll see. We'll see how it works because it's.
Yeah, we're not going to see a John Woo movie.
Oh, of course not. So, what did you guys learn from your experience?
I'll go last. I'll go last because
Okay.
I introduced it. So you
Okay,
guys, go.
I'll go first. I learned that if you want to receive a paycheck to murder as many people as you want, and at the end of the day just get to roll off into the sunset in your houseboat, be an undercover cop.
Yeah. All right, that's good stuff. Red.
Babies can serve as tactical gear.
That's true. That's true. And before I give my moral, I want to make very clear that I am saying that this is a moral if you find yourself in this situation overall. It is not advice to put yourself in this situation. Okay? If you find yourself with dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds of people hostage, don't kill all of them. That's not what hostages are for. When you kill all of them, then you don't have hostages anymore. And it didn't work out. It didn't work
Wise
out,
words.
and it was doomed from the start. Yeah.
You heard it here. Hostage etiquette from Blue.
Yeah.
I
Don't
see.
A
kill
man
This is
with
why I gave.
experience.
This is why I gave the disclaimer.
In international markets, this movie was called something else. You know what it was called?
What's it called?
Baby Gun.
Get out of here.
Baby Gun.
Baby gun.
No, it's not. It wasn't called Baby Gun. That was Blue's nickname in college.
Better
I
than
will
gun
say
baby.
Baby
the
guns.
the cover art for this, or the DVD cover, is just like the promotional poster is just it's a baby with and a
Yeah,
shotgun.
just hold on.
I hold two things: babies and shotguns. That seems like a bad combo. I said babies and shotguns.
Yeah. I would totally give this movie 10 babies with guns out of 10 babies with guns.
Oh, I'm gonna give this movie 4 out of 5 sticky ruined bar tops.
I'm gonna give this movie 9 out of 10 overworked, sobbing internally internal affairs officers. And I think that does it. Thanks for listening. This is Dinner for Wolf, and have a good one.
Yeah, and that's Dinner for Wolf.
All right, let's get out of here.